The pop music industry is riddled with shady practices and big labels attempting to find any way to squeeze every last dollar out of their artists. This has led many people around the world to speculate and theorise about the happenings surrounding the pop industry, and let me tell you, this industry is full of it. I mean, the pop music industry is absolutely filled with rumours and controversies, so much so that user chill_goose1 has dedicated a complete iceberg towards them. And I've also added a few of my favourite theories as well to this one. So, slip into your bikini and defog your goggles, because today we will be diving headfirst into the freezing cold Arctic and exploring a bunch of major pop music conspiracies from the tip of the iceberg all the way down to Beyonce's residency in hell. Tier 1. Beyonce is illiterate. Beyonce being illiterate refers to the long-running theory which speculates upon Beyonce's comprehension level. Obviously. Beyonce famously didn't complete high school, having dropped out to pursue her music career at just 15 years old. Furthermore, broadcaster and writer Wendy Williams has also famously claimed that Beyonce is difficult to understand, insisting that she, quote-unquote, only had a 5th grade education. There have also been multiple anonymous claims that Queen Bee, in conversation through text and email, appears to struggle to string sentences together and in general just all round comes across as functionally illiterate. Marilyn Manson removed his ribs to suck his own pee-pee. This is an entry that I've added. I guess Marilyn Manson isn't what you'd consider a traditional pop artist, but the conspiracy theory is so popular that I think it just deserves a spot on this iceberg. So, Marilyn Manson surgically removing his ribs to suck his own pee-pee is just a universal shared experience that has managed to seep its way into every schoolyard on Earth. The rumour can most likely be traced back to the 27th of December 1994, when Manson was arrested by the police, who were under the impression that he had performed oral sex on a man while performing on stage. This counterculture persona, mixed with how Manson chose to aesthetically present himself, made the idea of him removing his ribs for oral satisfaction believable enough for the rumour to spread like no other. Louis and Harry. Louis and Harry refers to a large number of wishful directioners who believe that ex-One Direction member Harry Styles and Louis Tomlinson are involved in a secret relationship. So, supposedly, Harry and Louis, who we will be referring to as Larry from this point forward, have stayed closeted due to One Direction's management, who supposedly aligned themselves with the homophobic corporate interests. Ironically, the management company is called Modest Management. Anyway, so shippers believe that the two have been subliminally broadcasting their relationship and have taken to analysing their body language, the pair's micro-expressions, and searching for hidden meanings in their tattoos. Even though Larry have both publicly dismissed the theory, many still truly believe that the two are in a true, honest, loving relationship. Grammys are staged. Grammys are staged is probably better worded as Grammys are rigged or biased, because, I mean, of course they're staged. It's literally a scripted event. But basically, this entry is referring to the allegations surrounding the Recording Academy and their unjust process of selecting who are nominated for the Grammys. Notably, artists such as The Weeknd, Justin Bieber and Halsey have all publicly expressed their distaste for the Academy, citing different reasons as to why their music was not nominated for an award. These claims all seem to stem from the general idea that the Academy doesn't pick nominees based on the artistic merit, but instead have more malicious motives, whether that be based on bribes and financial connections or allegations of more sinister motives such as racism or homophobia. Niels Schongberg. So Niels Schongberg refers to a pseudonym that was used by Taylor Swift as a songwriter. Most notably, under this name, Taylor wrote This Is What You Came For, which ended up being performed by Calvin Harris and Rihanna, which I guess is a song that you wouldn't really want to be associated with yourself, would you? Anyway, when asked why she decided to use a pen name, Taylor stated, I think when a pseudonym comes in is when you still have a love for making the work, and you don't want the work to become overshadowed by this thing that's been built around you. Elvis/Tupac/Biggie is alive. So this is another entry that I've added. Well known, but I feel like it deserves to be featured. So this entry refers to the theory that some of the biggest stars on the planet that have passed away have actually faked their own deaths, whether that be to escape the limelight or just for shits and gigs. I don't know why you do it for shits and gigs. Rumours have circulated about the supposed deaths of stars such as Elvis, Tupac, and Biggie, as sources believe that they've spotted the stars out in public. Family members of the deceased, or the quote-unquote deceased, have messed up the tense of their loved ones when speaking about them in interviews as well, which has caused fans to speculate upon the legitimacy of their claims. Tier 2. Dark Side of the Moon syncs with the Wizard of Oz. So this is another one that isn't really pop music, but it's popular enough for a theory that I think it deserves a spot. So there's a long-running theory that suggests that if you play Pink Floyd's 1973 album, The Dark Side of the Moon, simultaneously with the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, you'll find that there are moments which would suggest that The Dark Side of the Moon was purposefully made to correspond with the film. There are definitely some moments which do strike you as too good to be true, or too good to be coincidental. My favourite actually being how the start of Money coincides with the film switch to a full colour palette. I mean, come on. However, when asked about this theory, drummer Nick Mason told MTV in 1997, it's absolute nonsense. Apparently it has nothing to do with the Wizard of Oz, and detractors seem to agree that the phenomenon is the result of the mind's tendency to find patterns by discarding data that does not fit. Also, not to mention the Dark Side of the Moon is about an hour shorter than the film. Oh well. Helps if you're high. Lady Gaga killed Lou Reed. Okay, so this theory suggests that Lou Reed was murdered by Lady Gaga and her team when he publicly denounced her 2013 album Art Pop. The context for this is that Lady Gaga enlisted the help of musical legend and the Velvet Underground member Lou Reed to oversee her production of Art Pop, which, at a conceptual level, was intended to be an homage to the work of the Velvet Underground. It's kind of like if the Velvet Underground were the call, then Gaga's track on Art Pop were intended to be the answer. Some examples include GUI to Walk on the Wild Side, Dope to Heroin, and Manicure to I'll Be Your Mirror. So supposedly, when Reed eventually listened to the demo tracks from the album, his only response was, "I have no interest in any further involvement." Furthermore, after hearing Venus, which was inspired by Venus in Furs by the Velvet Underground, Lou Reed threatened to publicly denounce the album as well, threatening legal action if Art Pop was released with a track included. This theory suggests that Gaga, being so hurt by Reed's statements, enlisted the help of Interscope label head Jimmy Levine and her manager at the time, Troy Carter, to have Lou Reed murdered. After recovering from a liver transplant, he was supposedly injected with polonium, and just days after Lou Reed's passing, Lady Gaga released Art Pop. Britney Spears almost never sings. I believe this entry simply refers to Britney Spears almost never singing live when she performs, and she instead lip syncs to her master tracks. Britney's had multiple lip sync controversies, notably her 2009 Australian tour, and in 2017 when Britney's microphone became entangled in her hair, her vocals still came through perfectly, which led to a lot of speculation in regards to her vocal legitimacy. Britney has gone on record stating, "A lot of people think I don't sing live because I'm dancing so much and I do have a little bit of playback, but there's a mixture of my voice and the playback. It really pisses me off because I am busting my ass out there and singing at the same time. Nobody really gives me credit for it. And honestly, fair enough. Look at her go." Payola everywhere. Payola is the industry practice of influencing commercial radios to play a specific song or artist through some sort of payment or bribe. The difference between payola and sponsored airtime is how this payment is disclosed to the listener. Payola is specifically when the broadcast doesn't acknowledge to the listener that they're being incentivized by a third party. And this entry suggests that although illegal, payola is in fact prevalent within society. I mean, anyone who's ever opened up Spotify and seen Drake blasted from wall to wall would probably agree that payola is indeed walking free. This entry on the deeper level, though, comments on the inherent absence of a free market in terms of the music industry, and acknowledges that everything is controlled by the checkbook of a corporation. Tier 3. Taylor is gay. So this entry, which is affectionately known as Gala, refers to the theory that Taylor Swift may be into girls. According to fan speculation, Swift may have dated both supermodel Karlie Kloss and Glee actress Diana Agron, two ladies that were part of Taylor's epic squad that had the internet hooked back in 2014. A romantic relationship has never been confirmed by Kloss or Agron, but I think they really need to. The very first interaction that Swift had with Karlie Kloss happened in 2012, where Swift tweeted that she wanted to bake cookies with Kloss. The evidence can be found in Taylor's tour costumes, which share a likeness to outfits that Karlie has worn, to the lyrics, "I snuck through the garden gate every night that summer just to seal my fate," which is from Cruel Summer and I believe Folklore, and relates to the large gates at Karlie Kloss's home. Apart from one blurry video that claims that Taylor and Karlie kiss, and some Polaroids that are in Kloss's house, most of the speculation seems to come from linking some lyrics that Taylor's written to Instagram captions. It was very clear that the two were close, more physically close than any of the other girls in her squad, but they have since drifted and no longer associated with one another. Or maybe they've broken up. I don't know. It appears that most of the speculation of a romance with Diana Agron come from a similar context, which is derived from her song lyrics. It's speculated that Cardigan, also from Folklore, may be about Agron, and that her song Betty, also from Folklore I believe, may be about loving a woman as well. But Taylor has gone on record stating that she is straight. Taylor Swift is a 4chan user. This is another entry that I've added because it's had me hooked since the first time I came across it. So this refers to the theory that Taylor Swift is an active user in the 4chan community. A flowchart of sorts was created to document this theory and attempt to prove Taylor Swift's involvement. It all began when a user on B posted an AMA claiming that they were one of the top 50 most famous people on the planet and that they were an entertainer. From here, Taylor Swift has made her way through various threads on 4chan, from asking for naming suggestions for her cat and then actually naming her cat after one of these suggestions, to images of an anonymous user in the thread having practically identical blinds in the background to Taylor's, photo captions being posted on 4chan and then the exact same photo captions showing up on Taylor's socials hours later, to someone even claiming that they had a conversation with Taylor over Omegle where she literally admitted to being an active member of the community. But at the end of the day, we are dealing with 4chan and Taylor Swift, so who knows for sure. Lady Gaga has a pee-pee. Lady Gaga has a penis refers to the allegations that Lady Gaga is intersex or simply just has a penis. This rumour seemingly started after a video of a live performance surfaced where it does appear that she has something down there. This video, mixed with the bold presentation of Lady Gaga, made it easy for the rumours to take a life of its own. Now, Gaga has publicly denied these rumours, but also has been pretty clear that she doesn't care, and no one else should as well. Avril Lavigne is dead and a clone took over. So, this entry refers to the theory that when Avril Lavigne was at the peak of her career, she passed away suddenly and unexpectedly. So, her label had a lookalike named Melissa take over her persona to continue to be able to profit on her likeness and brand. The theory that goes that during Let It Go, which was Lavigne's debut album, she was struggling with the pressures of being famous, so her team hired a doppelganger named Melissa Vandella to alleviate the pressures by doing some public appearances on her behalf. After struggling with the sudden passing of her grandfather, the stress surrounding her album, and an unforeseeable future, Avril fell into a deep depression and was found passed away in her room. As she was a major cash cow for the label, as well as being an emerging artist, Everyone associated with Lavigne stayed quiet about her passing, and she was quietly replaced with Melissa. The proof supposedly comes from a sudden shift in style and appearance, as well as subliminally leaving clues, such as within the title of her second album, Under My Skin, because Melissa is living under the skin of the new Avril. I don't know. Beyonce is possessed while on stage. So, Beyonce is possessed while on stage builds upon the common suggestion that Beyonce is involved with some sketchy crowds, whether that be the Illuminati or Satanists. The idea of her being possessed while on stage was most likely brought on by her unfortunate knack for making weird faces while performing. And I guess a possible explanation for this is that she's possessed. Of course. A notable example of this is her performance at the Super Bowl 47 halftime show, where notoriously this image originated from. This is also the Super Bowl where the Superdome had a blackout, which has been used by conspiracists to further allege that she was possessed during the performance prior. Dunno. Guess the logic is that demon possession requires decent wattage. Tier 4. Katy Perry is JonBenet Ramsey. So JonBenet Ramsey was famously a young beauty queen who was tragically murdered in her own home. Basically, internet conspiracy theorists have begun speculating that JonBenet Ramsey was never actually murdered, but she was instead hidden away from the world for over a decade so that she could eventually re-emerge into the world as your favourite Californian girl, Katy Perry. This theory was originally posted by a gentleman by the name of Dave Johnson, who came to this conclusion because Katy Perry looks a bit like JonBenet. He states that not only does Katy Perry visually resemble JonBenet, but her parents also look a lot like John and Patsy Ramsey as well. Johnson has actually overlaid Katy Perry's face over a picture of JonBenet's in an attempt to prove that they're the same person, and some of her facial expressions do line up pretty accurately, especially her eyebrows. But this theory does hit a hurdle pretty quickly, as Katy Perry was born in 1984 and JonBenet was born in 1990. Jay-Z cheating and the elevator scene was staged. So this relates to the theory that the 2014 Jay-Z and Beyonce cheating scandal was fake, and therefore ties into the idea that celebrities stage public scandals in order to create media attention. I feel like this conclusion's been made because Jay-Z's face kind of reminds me of how mashed potatoes look. And it's just a bit weird that he'd cheat on someone as attractive as Beyonce. Like buddy, you're already kind of punching up above like 6 weight classes here. What are you doing? Beyonce is actually Solange's mother, / Beyonce is older than she says. So continuing on with the Beyonce theme here, this theory suggests that Solange, a fellow singer-songwriter and Beyonce's younger sister, is actually Beyonce's daughter. So according to this theory, Beyonce gave birth really, really young and was unable to properly look after her daughter. Therefore, Solange was raised by Beyonce's parents and brought up as her sister. Beyonce being Solange's mother also coincides with the theory that Beyonce has been lying about her age. Although she claims to have been born in 1981, Beyonce's official documents, such as her birth certificate, driver's license, etc., supposedly read 1974. This means that instead of being 41 years old this year, she'd actually be turning 48. This rumor is believed to have been started by somebody who claimed they had worked at Beyonce's label. Who knows the legitimacy there? But that being said, Gabrielle Union, who is an actress and a friend of Beyonce, has stated that the two have been friends since they were teenagers, even though Gabrielle Union is 10 years older than Beyonce. Now, I'm not good at maths, but I don't think there's any healthy 24-year-olds that are good friends with a 14-year-old, so take that as you will. Stevie Wonder can see. This is another one of mine. This obviously refers to the theory that Stevie Wonder has been faking his blindness and can actually see perfectly fine. So in 2010, Stevie Wonder appeared with Paul McCartney during a performance at the White House, and cameras caught Paul McCartney knocking a microphone stand over. And Stevie Wonder quickly catches it before it fell. Other celebrities have also shared their speculation surrounding Wonder's eyesight. Shaq shared that Wonder once said hello to him after standing beside him unannounced. Lionel Richie shared that Wonder once steered a car down the driveway in reverse, which, by the way, if this is true, this makes me feel so stupid because I once ripped the front of my car off on a fence while trying to back out of my own driveway when I first got my license. And I can see perfectly fine, so that's great. Anthony Anderson once challenged Wonder to a charity 3-throw event, and Wonder won. You know what? Send him to the Lakers. Dolly Parton's arms are full of tattoos. So this entry refers to the fact that Dolly Parton is typically always seen with long sleeves on. So this has led some to believe that, well, that's to be a reason as to why she's making this choice. And I guess the most logical conclusion is that she's covered in tattoos. There's actually quite solid ground to this theory, as Dolly Parton has stated that she does actually have tattoos, and there's multiple reports suggesting that Dolly is in fact covered in specifically passport tattoos, so not really much of a theory there. Tier 5. Britney's meltdown was a deal she made with Bush. So Britney's meltdown was a deal she made with Bush refers to the suspicious level of correlation between former President George Bush's public blunders and the string of Britney Spears meltdowns and controversies that happened during the 2000s. So the theory suggests that the Bush administration paid or otherwise coerced Britney into drawing attention to herself when President Bush did an oopsie, in hopes that the pop culture media obsessed population will be too busy laughing at a young woman on the ropes to pay attention to the literal mismanagement of their country. Anyway, so here's sort of the basic chronology of this strange correlation. In January 2005, the Bush administration was coming out of Plumbergate, which was basically the accidental leak of the identity of a CIA agent. A week before the court case for this fiasco was about to commence, Britney Spears marries her childhood friend Jason Alexander, only to call it off 55 hours later and unofficially starting the Britney Spears dark timeline. The next year, in April 2006, American media is dominated by Bush and his horrendously low approval ratings. Until the media found out that Britney was caught driving with her child not in the car seat, but on her lap. November 2006, the day before a predicted horrible midterms for the Republican Party, Britney announces her split from K-Fed. February 2007, Bush announces that this group has reformed, and that night, Britney sneaks out of rehab, shaves her head, and attacks someone with an umbrella. March 2007, the Attorney General is forced to admit that, mistakes were made in the firing of 8 US attorneys who allegedly were not loyal enough to the Bush administration. Yep, you guessed it! The same day that that's leaked, Britney had a hookup with a fellow musician in rehab. This theory is only strengthened by, again, the correlation between Bush leaving office in 2008 and the drop-off in Britney-related news. This theory holds merit as it builds upon the extremely strong theory that the CIA used modern art as a public deterrent against communism. So it's not unprecedented that a government would weaponize art and pop culture. Warehouse full of Taylor's debut album CDs. So this theory suggests that Taylor Swift's father bought a crazy quantity of her debut album to boost its popularity in the charts, and that these CDs are laying dormant in a random warehouse somewhere. Although there's no proof of this, it's not an entirely uncommon practice for this sort of thing to happen. This is typically why so many albums that you've never heard of have actually gone platinum, which obviously indicates that 1 million records have been shipped. Taylor-Kanye drama was staged. So this entry is referring to the notorious 2009 VMAs incident where Kanye West interrupted Taylor Swift's best video by a female artist speech to say, "I'm gonna let you finish, but Beyonce had one of the best videos of all time." Yada yada yada. So this is suggesting that that entire incident was actually pre-planned for the mutual beneficial attention that the controversy would create. Because on one hand, we have Taylor Swift, who, after controversy, had an unnatural uptick in record sales, as public sentiment was generally sympathetic towards her. And on the other hand, we have Kanye West, who was already building a counterculture image. But he was booked on The Tonight Show with Jay Leno the next night. And the conspiracy goes that Jay Leno was in on this to get eyes on the Tonight Show, as the public would be dying to watch Kanye apologize. Artists leak unreleased demos on purpose. So the unreleased demo leak has been around for as long as music's been recorded, but it's really become an industry trend with the rise of SoundCloud and TikTok and other independent methods of releasing music. The unreleased demo is supposedly an unwanted leak of an early version of a song or album. This allure of listening to something that you're not supposed to often leads to these leaks getting spread around the community, and in some cases, going viral. This entry suggests that as a sort of guerrilla marketing tactic, artists and labels are leaking snippets of songs purposefully to create buzz for its official release. This tactic would also allow artists to stay topical on social media during the in-between phases of their release cycles. Artists like Lil Uzi Vert, for example, is notorious for his leaks. His song, of course, was leaked early and made it to number 14 on the charts before it was ever publicly released. So this theory is very easily believable, actually. Every pop singer's age is a lie refers to events where pop singers have lied about their age to change a perception about themselves or to remove certain barriers that appear because of their age. So I've mentioned the Beyonce theory earlier, but other examples of this include Pussycat Dolls member Nicole Scherzinger, who at the time of her 30th birthday was going as a 28-year-old. We've got J-Lo, who claimed to be born in 1970 until a police report revealed that she was actually born a year earlier, and James Blunt, who claimed to be 3 years younger than he actually was. However, this theory doesn't only consist of older people pretending to be younger to stop the clock on their marketable expiration date. There are cases actually of the opposite, such as Nadine Coyle, who as a 16-year-old lied about her age to audition for the television show Irish Pop Stars, which is, I guess, kind of like our 2000s versions of everyone's great-granddad lying about their age in order to go to war. Lorde Jack Antonoff pineapple juice. This entry refers to the theory that Lorde and Jack Antonoff had a secret love affair behind Lena Dunham's back, and that Lorde's melodrama was written and based on the events and emotions of this affair. The pineapple juice part refers to how Jack supposedly wooed Lorde with pineapple juice, because we all know what pineapple juice does. But seriously, there is a great slideshow which started this theory, which is definitely the best medium to learn about this, so I'll link it down in the description. The Weeknd's The Hills is about Ariana / they were involved in a secret relationship. So some fans believe that The Weeknd and Ariana Grande were involved in a secret relationship back when Ari was publicly dating Big Sean. And because of this theory, fans now speculate that The Weeknd's hit single The Hills may actually be a confession of their relationship. The lyrics, "Your man on the road he doing promo," may possibly relate to when Big Sean was touring and promoting his album Dark Sky Paradise, which was released when he and Ari were still dating. The lyrics, "You said keep our business on the low," self-explanatory, because they can't have the relationship leak out to the press or drama and chaos may ensue. The evidence for this theory is not only found within the lyrics as well, supposedly, but also within the imagery of the music video as well. The music video centers around a car accident, and coincidentally, Ariana Grande was involved in a car accident in Hollywood Hills on the way to visit Big Sean. If you're after some more speculation of their supposed relationship, in 2018, The Weeknd liked a few tweets referring to the failure of Ariana Grande and Pete Davidson's relationship. Another example is upon the release of Dawn FM, his 5th studio album, fans couldn't help but theorize that I Heard You're Married, a track about having an affair with a married woman, may be referring to Ari because none of his exes are currently married. Lana Del Rey is actively trying to cancel herself. So this entry refers to the controversy that seemingly follows Lana Del Rey. Here is a brief chronology of her controversies. January 2012. Video games is criticised for being anti-feminist. January 2012, her iconic SNL performance faces ridicule. March 2012, the cover art for Blue Jeans is released, and it features a man choking her. October 2012, Del Rey appropriates Native American culture by donning a headdress in the Ride music video. December 2013, her short film Tropico also partakes in cultural appropriation, but this time with the Hispanic community. June 2014, Ultraviolence, the title track from her album, includes the lyric, "He hit me and it felt like a kiss." June 2014, Lana tells the Fader magazine that she doesn't think feminism is an interesting concept. November 2014, a snippet of a scrapped Marilyn Manson music video shows Del Rey partaking in a rape scene. October 2018, Lana Del Rey and Azealia Banks have a public Twitter feud over Kanye West's support of Donald Trump. September 2019, Lana slams music critic Ann Powers for her review of her 6th studio album, Norman fucking Rockwell. May 2020, Lana asks if the fact that her songs glamorize abuse is now acceptable because of how successful sexualized songs by other female artists, primarily women of colour, are. June 2020, Lana exposes looters in a clip posted from her attendance at the protest of George Floyd's death. October 2020, Lana does a meet and greet in a mesh mask. January 2021, chemtrails over the country club's album art sparks controversy due to its inclusion of women of colour on the album art. And then Lana's need to explain that this wasn't planned to make her look good. They're her friends. And then she also goes ahead and groups all rappers as people of colour. I'd love to know her thought process behind all that. January 2021, Lana slams Complex for focusing on her comment that downplays the Capitol incident. Due to this extensive list of controversies, it's been theorised that Lana is actively trying to cancel herself as a way of A, leaving the limelight in a way that would remove her from celebrity culture in general, or B, simply a way of drumming up more media attention. Or, you know, she's just a bit of a questionable person. Ashley O is the real Miley Cyrus. So this is spoilers for season 5, episode 3 of Black Mirror. Ashley O is the real Miley Cyrus refers to season 5, episode 3 of the British dystopian drama Black Mirror. In this episode, Miley Cyrus portrays the character of Ashley O, a young pop star who is being controlled and restrained by her exploitative aunt. The running metaphor throughout this episode is a mouse stuck in a mousetrap, alluding to the idea of industry exploitation and the idea of artists being pawns in the game of big record labels. This theory suggests that the experiences of Ashley O in the show parallel those of Miley Cyrus, especially during her Hannah Montana Disney phase. And this also extends to being a representation of young pop stars in general. Taylor re-records everything because she has no songs left. Since 2021, Taylor Swift has been re-releasing all of her prior music as a workaround to own the master recordings of her songs, those masters of which are currently owned by her record label under a deal that she signed when she was 15 years old. Owning the master recording of a song means that you can choose how the song is used in mediums such as commercials or movies. Taylor has received practically unanimous praise for this move and what it symbolises as a rebellion against big labels. However, this theory suggests that everything about the masters is simply a front for the fact that Taylor has actually just run out of songs and she needs to re-release prior music in order to stay relevant. Willow Witch versions have satanic music in the background. So I believe that this theory is built upon the foundations of another theory, being that Taylor Swift is actually the clone of the daughter of the Church of Satan. And honestly, the visuals check out, I'm actually convinced. This theory has really opened the floodgates of Taylor being connected with Satanism and secret societies. And This theory is specifically referring to the conspiracy that pop artists hide satanic subliminal messaging in their music. Taylor Swift has released 5 witchy versions of Willow, leading some to believe that she's used each remix to hide satanic music in the background. Maybe. Sia is obsessed with Maddie Ziegler. So, this theory relates to the uncomfortable relationship the pop star Sia has with dance mum star Maddie Ziegler. Sia took Maddie Ziegler under her wing back in 2013 when she released her hit single Chandelier, using Ziegler as some kind of visual pseudonym. Since then, Maddie has been involved with almost all of Sia's projects, as well as developing what can only be described as a strange and intimate relationship with the singer. Sia publicly shares her love for Maddie, often feeling as though she was the child that she never had, and she's grateful that Maddie's mum shares her with her. She stated that she felt the need to save Maddie from the stress of her life on Dance Mums. And Maddie's actually stated that she spent equal time at Sia's home and her own home during lockdown. Sia's bought Maddie a car, the two share a bed together and snuggle. Yep. Sia's actually gone on record stating, "I can't do a project without her. I don't want to. I wouldn't make art if it didn't include her." Trump presidency was staged to promote Chained to the Rhythm. Chained to the Rhythm is the lead single of Katy Perry's 2017 album Witness. The song on the surface is a fun, upbeat dance track, but delving into the lyrics reveals a commentary on the privilege and specifically the dissociation between upper-class America and the real everyday problems plaguing the country. Contextually, you can discern the political charge from this track is in relation to the Trump administration. So, back to the entry. Trump's presidency was staged to promote Chained to the Rhythm. This one's actually a bit silly. It doesn't really have a string to run off, but it just built upon the idea that record labels and by extension corporations have more influence on American politics than you'd initially think. Let's move on from that one. Rita Ora and BB Rexa are the same person. Now, I couldn't find an exact entry about this, but I mean, this is automatically debunked because there's so many photos of these two together. But they're actually identical. Like, if you gave me a photo of Rita and told me it was BB, I literally wouldn't question it. Like, you can't tell me that this woman and this woman aren't just the same woman. Taylor scrapped Woodvale because people are tired of the aesthetic. During 2020, Taylor Swift decided flannels were now in and dropped 2 folk albums, Folklore and Evermore. Now, Taylor has a habit of dropping little Easter eggs and clues to future works, so fans were quick to notice the seemingly hidden text that spelled out Woodvale in the top right corner of the Folklore album cover. Now, there were many theories as to what Woodvale could mean. One theory suggests that Woodvale was simply the working title while Folklore was in development, and then another suggests that Woodvale is the name of the fictional setting of Folklore. However, the most popular theory was that Woodvale is the name of a future album, and this was a little hint referring to that. Now, when asked about Woodvale by Jimmy Kimmel of all people, Taylor said that it was practically the working name theory, and that she just forgot to take this working name off the Folklore album cover. What Taylor is suggesting is quite suspicious, because how do you forget to take the working title off the album art? I mean, surely someone somewhere would have noticed this before it's released to the public. And also, why is the opacity turned all the way down? Like, that's something you manually have to do. This weird reasoning by Taylor has led some to believe that Woodvale was in fact a third album in the folk phase of the Taylor timeline, but it was dropped as interest in another Taylor folk album dwindled. Charli XCX was paid by car factories to create Vroom Vroom. Vroom Vroom is a 2016 hyperpop EP released by Charli XCX. The theory that she was paid off by car factories stemmed from the clear romantification of vehicles in the song, which may have been used as a subtle marketing tactic. But another clue in this is that Charli released this EP under a newly formed record label, Vroom Vroom Records, which may suggest that other record labels didn't actually want anything to do with the project, as they knew that Charlie was being paid off and didn't want to deal with any legal issues. And even looking at the YouTube channel for Vroom Vroom Records, it only has 2 videos uploaded. Just feels a little bit corporate in general. I don't know. Moving on. Ariana Grande is calling for Satan while holding microphones. Now, I couldn't actually find anything on this entry, so I'm just going to take a stab in the dark and go the literal face value route and just say that something in the way that Ariana Grande holds a microphone is related to satanic imagery in some sort of way. Moving on. Paris Hilton secretly restores antique radios. So, this theory starts with a comment on the Red Wave radio message board when the user RP asked if they'd just seen Paris Hilton today at the Hall of Science, inquiring about ham radio licenses. Now, this is significant because the message was dated the 21st of June 2006. You might be wondering, why is this date significant, Caitlin? Well, because a couple of days later, on the 23rd to the 25th of June, it was the International Amateur Radio Exhibition in Germany, which is the largest of its kind. Alright, so we've established that Paris Hilton was supposedly asking about ham radio licenses days before the largest amateur radio gathering of the year, but God, if only there was some way of figuring out Paris's exact location during this time. Well, according to the caption of this image on Getty Images, Paris Hilton was in Cologne, Germany, on the 27th of June 2006 promoting her new song. So it's actually entirely possible that Paris went to the International Amateur Radio Exhibition and stayed in Germany for a few more days on press tour. This is further supported by a 2012 Reddit thread asking who is the nicest celebrity you've met, in which one user claimed that they broke down on the Autobahn in Germany. This was a pretty crappy situation of the OP as they didn't speak German at all, but luckily, an American in a van pulled over to help, and who was supposedly also in this van? Paris Hilton. And she even allegedly talked to OP about radios and how she loved to drive around Europe going to radio shows. The final bit of evidence is a post from celebrity gossip website Meanstars, in which user OK8460 claims that their stepsister used to work for Paris Hilton and that she allegedly has a room in her house filled with vintage radios. Now, with all of these ties, BuzzFeed decided to just ask Paris if she's really into antique radios, in which her publicist simply replied, she does not. Which, I mean, I guess it delegitimizes this theory as to why would her publicist lie about this? But it also, I mean, it could be that Paris is extremely passionate about radios and she just wants to keep this one thing about herself private, as most things in her life are not. And she also could not want to artificially trendify, if that's even a word, antique radios and sort of ruin it for those who are genuinely into it. In any case, the stars are too aligned with this, and I'm choosing to wholeheartedly believe this one. 9/11 happened only for Mariah's album to plop. The final entry on this iceberg refers to the 2001 rom-com musical Glitter, which starred Mariah Carey. Now, this movie, to be blunt, was garbage. The writing and the performances were notably horrible, which is reflective of its 2.3 out of 10 on IMDb and its 6% Rotten Tomatoes. So, you could imagine that because of these fundamental issues, the movie didn't do too well, even with the star power of Mariah Carey. And you would be correct, with only a $5.3 million global box office. Now, there is something we haven't actually mentioned yet. That being that Glitter had the unfortunate release date of September 11th, 2001. Of course, being released on one of the darkest days in American history, it's gonna do absolutely no favors. But Mariah Carey has come out publicly to say that Glitter failed solely because of this reason, and fails to acknowledge any of the flaws with the movie itself. This entry, I think, is making fun of this fact and is suggesting that 9/11 only happened out of spite to ensure that Mariah's movie fails. And that's it. That is the pop conspiracy iceberg. If you enjoyed what you watched and are interested in catching any future uploads, feel free to subscribe down below to the channel. Burt's the moderator. This is the first of hopefully many, many uploads. But I guess until then, thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.